After their week-long pissing contest, Donald Trump and the House Freedom Caucus have apparently come together to create a new proposal for healthcare in the United States that's worse than anything the Republicans have come up with so far. According to the new proposal, there would be two major changes to healthcare law in the United States. The first would be that states would have the option on whether or not they would cover a bare minimum with their health insurance plans. Basically, they would allow insurance companies to decide whether or not they wanted to have a one-size-fits-all insurance package or, for example, have a package that covers cancer patients but doesn't cover the cost of chemotherapy or other drugs that those people need. The second major provision that the House Freedom Caucus and Donald Trump want to put in there is to allow states to get rid of what's called community rating. And what that is basically they take a subsection of any specific community, evaluate the health needs of that particular group, and then create a one-size-fits-all insurance package based on the needs of that community that is available to everybody. In theory, this does technically make insurance premiums a little bit higher, but it also ensures that people's medical needs are met. So what this means is that while this new proposal does not technically do away with the pre-existing condition part of the Affordable Care Act, it does so in theory. Because now, if you have a pre-existing condition, states could have the option of forcing you to go buy basically an insurance plan that covers virtually nothing, certainly not your pre-existing condition, and that makes the premiums for everybody else, again, in theory, drop a little bit lower. So you, Mr. Sick Person and Mrs. Sick Person, you're on your own under the new Republican plan. Now, we remember the backlash from the American public against the Republican Party when they came out with the American Health Care Act that actually did still have the pre-existing condition clause in there saying you could not be denied coverage. That was the one thing people loved. And now that they're wanting to effectively remove those protections, can you imagine what kind of backlash the Republicans are going to get now? According to the Freedom Caucus, the reason they didn't get behind the AHCA was because it didn't go far enough to repeal some of the worst parts of Obamacare, as they called it. What they want to do is screw over everyone in this country who has any kind of pre-existing condition. And by the way, when we say pre-existing condition, we don't necessarily just mean somebody who's had cancer or somebody who has HIV. This runs the gamut of any woman who's ever been pregnant, had a baby, anybody who has asthma, anybody who has allergies or chronic pain. Those are pre-existing conditions. The majority of American citizens fall under that category. And if Republicans want to do away with the community rating, yeah, it could lower premiums for most people, but it's going to force people who have these horrible diseases to pay much higher premiums for insurance plans that do not even cover their illnesses. And again, the reason why I say in theory it'll lower premiums for the rest of people is because it won't. It won't. Those decisions, those premiums are set not by the federal government, by the insurance industry. Yeah, how many billions, they made in profits last year? Well, according to reports, in just the last quarter, Cigna pulled in over $8 billion in profit, okay? These groups aren't hurting for money. The Affordable Care Act isn't screwing them over. They're not raising premiums to just keep up with the high cost of medical care. They're raising our premiums because it puts more money in their pockets. They could lower them today if they wanted to and still see billions of dollars in profits. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that if we get rid of community rating. They're not going to do that if we get rid of the pre-existing conditions clause. They will not lower health insurance premiums. I want everybody to understand that. This is not a decision made by the federal government. This is a decision made by a private industry that is colluding with one another to keep our rates high. Nothing we do will lower those insurance rates. The Republicans telling you that is a damn lie. and anyone who believes it is a fool. We will not see our insurance premiums go lower until the government steps in and puts limits on that industry and puts a cap on them, or until they offer a public option which would then strip money away from the insurance companies, the private insurance companies, until they are forced to lower their rates so that people will once again buy the crap that they've been selling to us for decades. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you've done all those things, please check out all the videos below. Stay up to date with everything we do here at Ring of Fire.